Alright, here's a knife that GearBest sent me for review, or rather, it's the box, the knife is inside. And it's quite a fancy box, really. It's got a magnetic strip here that holds it closed. And inside is this pouch here that contains the knife. And this is the first time that I really see something like this. Quite a nice looking tactical pouch. It's got a bunch of attachment options and a pretty sturdy zipper. So here's the knife itself. GearBest sells this one for $159 US. It's made by a company called HX Outdoors, which was founded in China in 1995. I remember 95. 'Twas a good year for console gaming. It's also available in black, and I'm generally a little skeptical with regards to knives made in China, as I'm sure many of you are as well, just because there is a lot of cheap junk that is made there. But this one definitely is an exception. I mean, you can tell by the price that this is not cheap, and it's most certainly not cheap materials. So the blade is made of S35VN, which was considered a high-end steel a few years ago. Now it's seen as mid to high quality. It contains 1.4% carbon, 14% chromium, 3% vanadium, 2% molybdenum, and 0.5% niobium. Niobium was introduced to make it 15 to 20% tougher than S30V. It's got high toughness, but also high wear resistance and superior edge retention. In short, very high quality. I'll leave a link to an article about S35VN in the video description in case you want to read up some more on it. As you can see, it's quite a wide blade, fairly large knife overall, and when I fold it, you can see it sticks out quite a bit. It doesn't have a thumb stud, so the only way to open this is with a flipper, which is very smooth, remarkably so, even out of the box. And when I took it out of the box first time, I could easily open it just like this without a wrist flick, thing like that. So quite smooth, and it got even smoother after messing around with it for a little bit. So this is really, requires no effort at all. There's no movement really needed other than pushing down on the flipper. If I do it fairly gently, it still pops right open. It's got a titanium alloy handle and a frame lock. So it's a nice sturdy lock. Not a whole lot of contact here, which doesn't really seem to be an issue. Personally, I would have preferred if it was a little closer to the center. The only other frame lock knife I have right now is this Schrade here. So this one here is really beefy. As you can see, it's quite a thick lock, and it goes to about the center of the blade there. But, this one here, again, doesn't really seem to be an issue. A lot of knives only contact a relatively small surface there, and it always locks up reliably. If I just let gravity open it, so not a lot of force at all. Let's shake it a little bit to open it up. It still clicks in securely. So if I try to close it, it's not going anywhere. So it's a full lock up, even from this very, very gentle closing. And there is absolutely no give anywhere here. It's all perfectly solid. And one little detail that I find remarkable that I've only seen on one other knife so far is that if you look closely, I don't know how well that'll show up in the video, but this right here is an insert. So at the top of the frame lock, right where it contacts the base of the blade, this is different material. So it looks like they put steel there, and I'm assuming it's probably the same kind of steel as the blade. Or either way, it's probably something harder than the frame. And that's a really good idea, because if you have a substantially softer frame than the blade, then this could over time deform and give you trouble. It's really quite remarkable. Very nice design feature, and it shows a lot of attention to detail that you don't often see. And when you look at the frame, overall, it's very precisely shaped. It's got these cutouts here. The one at the bottom there could be used to attach a lanyard. And really, really clean, crisp look overall. Also feels nice. I mean, of course, it's titanium. It generally feels pretty good in the hand. It doesn't get as cold as aluminum. It's stronger, of course. Titanium is expensive, of course, which is reflected in the price. That's really one of the only drawbacks of it. And from what I've read, titanium handles are more prone to scratching than stainless steel. But it also depends on the exact alloy. It doesn't say what titanium alloy it is. So either way, it seems like a really nice handle. I definitely appreciate how it feels. It's got kind of a warm feel to it. And the grooves right here give you a good amount of traction. Overall, the shape is very well executed. Give you a closer look here. You can see that the corners are beveled. There's also some jimping here on the back for extra traction. The pocket clip is one side or one position only, which is a bit of a bummer, which is probably my only nitpick, really. I think about it. There's really nothing else that I can personally find that I can criticize the knife for. And it's interesting because I did not have high hopes for this. For no particular reason other than, I guess, prejudice regarding knives made in China, which is silly, of course. There is definitely high quality stuff as well. But it was just kind of when I saw it, I was, yeah, looks like a neat design. But I didn't expect it to be amazing or super high quality or anything. But now that I've looked into it and handled it, I am definitely impressed. This is really quite good. As far as the edge is concerned, you can see it's shaving sharp. Here's a piece of ballistic gel with a dowel inside. This stuff is notoriously hard to cut because of, you can see how much friction it has, but it goes in quite nicely. So I can easily strip this off. Cutting the wood is also quite easy. You can see the shavings flying around here. The only thing about the handle that could be a little more comfortable is these areas here. You can see those cutouts there. It gets quite thin right there. So the corners here are a little bit uncomfortable if you wrap your fingers tightly around it and do carving and things like that. So it's not a big deal, but it could be just a little more comfortable. But otherwise, it's definitely a nice handle. More random things to cut. So works quite nicely, as you can see. So I'm not gonna test it too much because it is very good steel. And as I said, the edge retention is supposed to be very high. And I generally prefer to go by official statements on the quality of the steel as opposed to trying to figure out on my own how I think the edge retention is, because it's very subjective, and in everyday life you're not going to be able to keep track of it like at laboratory level accuracy. So you're better off just looking it up, essentially, at least in my opinion, because everybody has different ideas of sharpness and of durability and all that. What I can say is that it cuts really well. And of course the phone book paper test, gotta have that, right? Yeah, that's pretty good. The blade is also well centered in the handle, as you can see here. I also like the point on this one. If you take a look here, it's got a good taper to it, but the point doesn't become overly fine. So with this one, if you had to do some light prying, it wouldn't be the end of the world. It looks pretty strong. The belt clip seems very stiff, so it's the kind of thing that can be a little rough on the clothing. On the box it says it's intended for outdoor survival, EDC, and tactical use. And, I mean, for an EDC knife, for a lot of people, I would think this is probably a bit large, even though it's not heavy thanks to the titanium. But it's still a pretty substantial thing to carry in your pocket, depending on your personal preference. But yeah, outdoor, survival camping, things like that, definitely. It is a frame lock. It seems sturdily built. Definitely a heavy-duty blade, also a fairly long blade. In a pinch, you could probably even baton with this, ideally while keeping the lock disengaged. So I ended up liking this more than I thought I would, and it's quite easy to recommend it considering the good design and quality materials. Now the price, depending on, once again, your personal preferences, might be a little steep, but again, titanium is expensive. This sort of steel is probably not cheap either to produce. And, it's a lot of value for the price. So I'm going to leave the specifications and link to where you can get it in the more info section down below. I hope you found the review helpful, and thanks for watching.